The K9 dog froze at the edge of the helicopter ramp, holding his ground like he sensed something no one else could. Seconds later, the pilot realized what was about to happen, and they barely avoided disaster. Here's the full story. But before we continue, drop a comment below telling us where in the world you're watching from. And if you love extraordinary police dog stories like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The morning fog hung low over the Portland Regional Air Base, casting the tarmac in a pearly haze. Officer Sarah Donovan pulled her department SUV into the designated K9 unit parking space. In the rear compartment, Maverick, her 4-year-old Belgian Malinois, shifted impatiently, already sensing the day's energy despite the early hour. The digital dashboard clock read 5:42 a.m., early even by their standards. But today's mission warranted the pre-dawn arrival. "Almost there, Mav," Sarah said, gathering her gear bag as she opened the driver's door. The crisp October air carried the scent of jet fuel and approaching rain, the latter confirmed by the dark bank of clouds building on the western horizon. Weather forecasts had predicted the storm would hold off until late afternoon, hopefully long after their mission was complete. But the quickening breeze suggested nature might have other plans. Sarah released Maverick from his transport kennel. The dog's muscular form was immediately alert as he jumped down beside her. His specialized tactical vest identified him as law enforcement, the word police, emblazoned across both sides in reflective lettering that caught the airfield security lights. "Looking sharp this morning, Donovan," called a voice from the hangar entrance. Lieutenant James Keller stepped into view, his 20 years with the department evident in both his confident stance and the silver threading his temples. "Briefing in 10. The governor's security team is already here." Sarah nodded, clipping Maverick's lead to his harness before following her supervisor toward the building. Today's operation had been in planning for weeks, providing aerial security support for the governor's motorcade as she traveled to a controversial infrastructure summit. Intelligence reports had flagged multiple potential threats, prompting the deployment of their specialized air unit. "Weather window is narrowing," Keller noted, glancing toward the darkening horizon. "Let's make this briefing quick." Inside the hangar, the department's Bell 429 helicopter gleamed under the bright lights, its sleek black and blue exterior bearing the Portland Police insignia. Captain Alex Mercer, the unit's senior pilot, was conducting his pre-flight inspection, his movements methodical as he examined each component with practiced precision. "Morning, Donovan," Mercer called without looking up from the tail rotor he was inspecting. "Your four-legged partner ready for a bumpy ride? Forecast is showing some nasty wind shear developing." "Mavericks logged more flight hours than some of your rookies, Mercer," Sarah replied with a smile. "He'll be fine." The pilot straightened, wiping his hands on a cloth before approaching. At 42, Alex Mercer carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd spent more than half his life in cockpits. His transition from Air Force to law enforcement aviation had brought much-needed expertise to their specialized unit. "Fair enough," Mercer conceded, bending to offer his hand to Maverick. The dog sniffed it briefly, then allowed a quick scratch behind the ears. "He seems calm today." "That's good. Last thing we need is a nervous dog in a helicopter during turbulence." Sarah and Maverick had quickly established themselves as one of the department's most effective teams. His exceptional performance during specialized training in explosive detection and tactical operations, combined with his ability to remain calm under extreme conditions, had made him ideal for aerial deployments. "Briefing time," Lieutenant Keller announced, drawing the team toward the operation room at the far end of the hangar. The tactical unit officers, Wilson and Rodriguez, had arrived, their gear stacked neatly by the helicopter, ready for loading. They nodded respectfully to Sarah as they passed, both having witnessed Maverick's capabilities firsthand during previous operations. The governor's security coordinator, a stern-faced woman from the state police named Agent Morris, stood beside a digital map display as they entered. "Good, we're all here," she began without preamble. "The motorcade departs at 0730 hours. We have credible intelligence suggesting potential demonstrations along Route 16 with possible escalation beyond civil disobedience." The briefing continued with assignment details, communications protocols, and contingency plans. Throughout it all, Maverick remained at Sarah's side, seemingly attentive to the human conversation despite not understanding the words. This capacity for calm focus was what made him exceptional, the ability to remain alert without unnecessary energy expenditure. "Weather window is narrowing," Mercer noted, checking the updated forecast on his tablet. "We should be airborne within 30 minutes if we want to avoid the leading edge of this system." "Equipment status?" Keller asked, turning to his team. "Tactical gear is prepped and ready," Officer Wilson reported. "Night vision, thermal, and communications equipment all checked and operational." "K9 unit is mission ready," Sarah confirmed. "Maverick's rappelling harness and protective gear are confirmed operational." Sarah felt the familiar pre-mission tension settling into her shoulders as they concluded the briefing. Their specialized aerial K9 unit had proven its value repeatedly over the past 2 years, becoming an integral part of VIP security operations. "Final questions?" Agent Morris asked, scanning the room. When no one spoke, she nodded curtly. "Then we proceed as planned. Comms check at 0700, wheels up at 0715. As the team gathered their equipment and moved toward the helicopter, Sarah ran through her mental checklist. Maverick's specialized hearing protection was secure, his tactical vest properly fitted, and his specialized rappelling harness checked for any signs of wear. The dog watched her preparations with the patient understanding of a partner who trusted the routine. "Mount up, people. Departure in 15, Mercer called, now suited up in his flight gear and completing final preparations with his co-pilot Ryan Chen. The crew, consisting of Sarah and Maverick, 2 tactical officers, the flight crew, and a communications specialist, began loading their equipment onto the helicopter. The rotors remained still for now, but pre-flight systems hummed with electricity as the aircraft came to life under the pilot's skilled hands. Sarah approached the boarding ramp with Maverick, allowing the tactical team to load first. "Let's go, Mav," she encouraged, taking the first step up the ramp. Maverick didn't move. His body suddenly went rigid, feet planted firmly on the tarmac. "Come on, boy," Sarah coaxed, applying gentle pressure on his lead. Still, the Malinois remained frozen, his eyes fixed on the helicopter. Lieutenant Keller noticed the delay. "Problem, Donovan?" "He's just hesitating. Give us a second." Sarah knelt beside her partner, checking for any obvious issues, a caught harness strap, an injured paw, but found nothing. "Maverick, heel," she commanded more firmly. The dog not only refused to move forward but took a deliberate step backward, his posture shifting into what Sarah immediately recognized as alert behavior. His ears pricked forward, body tensing. Maverick had detected something. "Donovan, we don't have time for dog drama," Keller called, checking his watch. "The motorcade is departing in 40 minutes. Inside the helicopter, Mercer watched the situation developing with growing impatience. "What's the holdup?" he called through the open door. Sarah's professional instincts warred with operational pressure. Maverick's behavior wasn't normal reluctance or fear. This was trained alert posture. During training, when detecting an explosive substance, he exhibited this exact behavior: the slight backward movement, the rigid posture, the intense focus. The dog shifted his weight again, moving to block Sarah from approaching the helicopter, a behavior so unusual it sent a chill down her spine. "I think we have a situation," she called to Keller, who had now approached with visible frustration. What kind of situation? The dog spooked, probably senses the weather change. No, Sarah countered firmly. This is specific alert behavior. He's detecting something. We've conducted full security sweeps of this aircraft 3 times in the past 12 hours, Keller argued, his voice low but intense. There's nothing to detect. With all due respect, sir, Maverick's not wrong about these things. Mercer emerged from the cockpit, the mission timeline clearly weighing on him. Officer Donovan, with all due respect to your K-9 partner, we have a critical operation timeline and a very expensive aircraft sitting here burning fuel. Mercer's voice carried equal parts frustration and urgency. Can you get him on board, or do we need to deploy without the K-9 unit? Sarah hesitated. Her career existed in the delicate balance between following orders and trusting her partner's specialized capabilities. In the Portland Police Department, K-9 handlers were expected to exercise independent judgment. Their animals' unique abilities often transcended standard protocols. But this was a high-profile operation with multiple agencies involved. Captain Mercer, in 3 years Maverick has never given a false positive. If he's refusing to board, there's a reason. We don't have time to figure out what's spooking him, Keller interjected. The governor's motorcade won't wait. Sarah thought back to a training exercise 6 months earlier. Maverick had suddenly broken protocol, refusing to enter a warehouse during a routine search practice. The trainers had been frustrated until they discovered a natural gas leak so subtle the human monitors hadn't detected it. His actions had potentially prevented an explosion. 3 months before that, he'd alerted to a supposedly cleared vehicle during a demonstration, leading to the discovery of explosive residue from the vehicle's previous use in a training exercise, residue so minimal that even the department's electronic detectors had missed it. Sir, Sarah addressed Keller directly, I'm formally requesting we delay departure for an additional inspection based on K-9 alert behavior. Do you understand what's at stake here? I do, Sarah replied, her voice level despite the tension. And I'm willing to accept full responsibility if I'm wrong. Maverick remained focused on the helicopter, his body language unchanged. This wasn't anxiety or confusion. This was a trained alert that Sarah had learned to trust implicitly, often above contradictory human assessment. From the cockpit door, Mercer observed the exchange with growing interest, his initial frustration shifting to professional curiosity. As someone who trusted mechanical gauges with his life daily, the idea of a biological sensor overriding human judgment gave him pause. Lieutenant, Mercer called, what if she's on to something? These K-9s are essentially walking chemical detectors, right? More sensitive than most of our equipment. Keller wavered, caught between operational pressure and the seed of doubt now planted. Sarah could see Keller's mental calculation weighing mission requirements against potential risk, protocol against the specialized capabilities that made their K-9 unit valuable. You have 5 minutes, Donovan. Not 1 second more. Sarah nodded gratefully, turning her attention back to Maverick. Show me, she commanded, unclipping his lead to give him freedom to work. The Malinois immediately began a purposeful movement around the helicopter's exterior, his nose working intensely as he traced something invisible to the human observers. The tactical team had emerged from the aircraft now, watching with a mixture of impatience and curiosity as the dog performed his impromptu inspection. Specialist Garcia paused his system checks to watch through the cabin window. $20 says the dog's right, he muttered to Officer Rodriguez. That animal found my hidden training aid last month when it was sealed in 3 containers inside a concrete block. What exactly is he doing? Mercer asked, following at a safe distance. Scent tracking, Sarah explained. He's following something specific. Mavericks primarily train for explosives detection, but he's also sensitive to a range of chemical compounds and mechanical abnormalities. Like what? Mercer's professional interest was fully engaged now. Fuel leaks, hydraulic fluid, electrical shorts, anything that changes the normal scent profile of equipment he's familiar with. Dogs can detect concentrations as low as parts per trillion for some substances. That's why bomb-sniffing dogs can find explosives when electronic detectors miss them. Maverick methodically worked his way around the helicopter's perimeter, his movements deliberate and purposeful. Sarah recognized the pattern from hundreds of training exercises. The dog was isolating and tracking a specific scent signature, narrowing it down to the point of highest concentration. The dog suddenly stopped at the helicopter's tail section, his attention focused intently on the area where the tail boom met the main fuselage. His body language shifted into a formal alert, sitting rigidly while maintaining eye contact with the spot, the trained indication that he'd located a target scent. "He's got something," Sarah announced, moving to examine the area. "Right here." Mercer approached cautiously. "That's near the tail rotor control assembly. I checked it during pre-flight and didn't see anything unusual." "Check again," Sarah suggested, maintaining her position near Maverick, who remained in alert posture. The pilot studied the area carefully, his experienced eyes searching for any visible anomaly. A leak, a loose fitting, anything that might explain the dog's alert. "Nothing obvious from the exterior," he admitted, "but that doesn't mean there isn't something internal." Mercer's professional pride warred briefly with practical safety considerations before he nodded to his co-pilot. "Chen, get the inspection panels open, full diagnostic on the tail rotor controls." "Yes, sir," Chen replied, already retrieving the necessary tools from their equipment case. The next few minutes passed in tense silence as the pilots conducted their inspection. The tactical team muttered among themselves about delays and dogs, while Lieutenant Keller checked his watch repeatedly, already on his radio explaining the situation to command. "Sir, the governor's security team is asking for a status update," the communications officer reported. "They're concerned about the delay." "Tell them we're conducting an additional safety inspection," Keller responded, his expression tight. "Estimated delay? 15 minutes?" Sarah remained beside Maverick, occasionally offering quiet praise for his alertness. The dog maintained his position, still indicating the specific area even as the maintenance panels were removed. This persistence confirmed what Sarah already knew. Whatever had triggered his alert was significant. "Hold up," Chen called suddenly, his tone shifting from skepticism to concern. "We've got a problem here." Mercer moved quickly to his co-pilot's side, examining something in the exposed control assembly. His expression transformed as he carefully traced a component with his finger. "Jesus," he muttered, looking back at Maverick with newfound respect. "What is it?" Keller demanded, approaching the inspection. "Control rod assembly is showing stress fractures," Mercer explained, pointing to a barely visible hairline crack in a critical component. "It would likely have failed during flight, especially in the turbulence we're expecting." "Would the pre-flight checks have caught it?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. Mercer shook his head. "Negative. The crack is in a position that's not visible during standard inspection. We only found it because we removed the access panel based on your dog's alert." "How long would it have taken to fail?" Keller asked, professional concern replacing his earlier skepticism. "Hard to say precisely," Mercer replied, carefully examining the damaged component. "But based on the propagation pattern and the stress this section experiences during flight, I'd estimate failure within the next 2 to 3 hours of operation, sooner under high-stress maneuvering conditions." The implications settled over the group like the approaching storm clouds. A tail rotor failure during flight, particularly during turbulence, would have been catastrophic. So what exactly would have happened? Keller asked, his earlier frustration now replaced with sobering realization. Mercer's expression was grim. Best case? Emergency landing under extremely challenging conditions. Worst case? Uncontrolled spin and crash. Either way, not the kind of thing you want happening with VIP protection on board. The enormity of what Maverick had potentially prevented settled over the team. Sarah knelt beside her partner, offering well-deserved praise while the pilots continued their inspection with newfound urgency. This isn't normal wear and tear, Chen observed, examining the component more carefully. The pattern suggests potential tampering. Mercer nodded in agreement. The fracture pattern is unusual. Look at the stress point. It's been deliberately weakened. See how the metal shows compression marks here and here? He pointed to barely perceptible indentations in the metal surrounding the fracture. That's consistent with application of external force. Could be intentional stress applied to create a delayed failure. Sabotage? Keller's entire demeanor shifted, operational concerns suddenly dwarfed by potential security breach implications. Can't confirm without metallurgical analysis, Mercer replied. But in my 20 years of flying, I've never seen a stress fracture quite like this one. Security logs for the hangar, Keller barked into his radio. I want every entry within the past 72 hours and pull the surveillance footage immediately. The mission rapidly transformed from VIP transport to potential sabotage investigation. A secondary helicopter was prepared while security teams descended on the hangar. The governor's protection detail was informed of the delay and potential security implications. Sarah remained with Maverick, maintaining a perimeter while investigators documented the damaged component and began reviewing maintenance records. The dog had settled now, the immediate threat identified, but remained alert to his surroundings. Your partner just saved lives, Mercer said quietly as he approached them. The pilot's earlier skepticism had vanished entirely, replaced by professional respect. That component would have failed during the exact kind of maneuvering we'd need to do along the motorcade route. Sarah nodded, allowing a small smile while scratching behind Maverick's ears. He's good at his job. How did he know? Mercer asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. There was no visible crack from the exterior, no fluid leak, nothing obvious. Scent detection isn't just about obvious odors, Sarah explained. Stress fractures in metal release microscopic particles. They change the chemical composition of the air in ways too subtle for humans to detect, but well within a dog's capabilities. Maverick's been around helicopters enough to know what they normally smell like, and this one smelled wrong to him. So he detected the metal itself breaking down, Mercer asked, looking at the Malinois with new appreciation. Mercer asked, fascinated. Essentially, yes. When metal fractures, it releases volatile compounds at the molecular level. Different metals release different compounds. Maverick's not identifying the object. He's detecting the chemical signature of the anomaly. The investigation moved quickly. Preliminary reviews of surveillance footage revealed a maintenance contractor accessing the helicopter during unauthorized hours 2 nights prior. The man, Ryan Denton, age 42, had apparently used legitimate credentials to enter the secure hangar, spending approximately 28 minutes near the aircraft before departing. Security located Denton preparing to leave the city on a bus departing for Seattle. His expression upon being approached by officers confirmed their suspicions before a word was spoken, the conscious guilt of someone who knows they've been caught. When brought in for questioning, Denton initially maintained his innocence, claiming he'd simply been completing routine work authorized by his contracting company. His demeanor changed dramatically, however, when investigators brought Maverick into the adjacent observation room, visible through the one-way glass. The dog's alert behavior triggered upon seeing Denton was unmistakable. Quite a fan club you've got there, the lead investigator remarked, nodding toward Maverick. That's the K-9 that detected your handiwork this morning. Saved a lot of lives, including the governor's. Something in Denton broke at that moment. The realization that his plan had been foiled not by human security or technology, but by an animal's extraordinary senses. It wasn't supposed to be political, he finally admitted. The governor wasn't the target. The truth emerged through hours of interrogation. Denton had been hired by a private security contractor with connections to a rival charter helicopter service that had lost the police department contract to Mercer's company the previous year. The sabotage was industrial, not political, designed to create an incident that would call the current provider's safety record into question and potentially reopen the bidding process. He never intended it to be fatal, the lead investigator explained later that afternoon, as the team gathered in the briefing room. The storm had arrived in full force now, rain pounding against the hangar roof while wind buffeted the building. Just enough of an incident to raise safety concerns and trigger an investigation. But in these weather conditions, with that kind of failure, Mercer shook his head. There's no way it wouldn't have been catastrophic. Was he working alone? Keller asked. We're still investigating the wider connections, the investigator replied. But Denton claims he was approached by a former supervisor now working for the competing aviation company, offered $10,000 for what was described as creating a mechanical issue that would require emergency landing but not endanger the aircraft. Sarah listened, her hand resting lightly on Maverick's head as he sat beside her chair. The Malinois remained calm but alert, his mission completed, yet his professional demeanor unchanged. This was what made him exceptional, the ability to transition between intense work and quiet alertness without the nervous energy. Many working dogs displayed nervous energy after intense operations, but Maverick remained composed. The governor's motorcade had departed with ground support only, the aerial component of the security operation scrapped due to both the sabotage investigation and the deteriorating weather. The summit would proceed under enhanced security protocols while the investigation into wider connections to the sabotage attempt continued. Sarah sat with Maverick beside her, still processing how differently the day might have ended without her partner's extraordinary perception and her decision to trust it above human skepticism. Officer Donovan, Keller approached, his earlier frustration completely transformed. Command wants a full briefing on how your K-9 detected the sabotage. They're considering implementing K-9 mechanical inspections as part of standard protocol for aviation units. Maverick would appreciate more work, Sarah replied with a small smile, scratching her partner behind the ears. I owe both of you an apology, the lieutenant continued. If we'd proceeded as I wanted, you were following protocol, Sarah offered. Trusting a dog over established procedures isn't standard operating procedure. Maybe it should be, Mercer interjected, joining their conversation. In 20 years of flying, I've trusted mechanical gauges and human inspections without question. But today? He shook his head, looking at Maverick with newfound respect. Today I learned that sometimes the most sophisticated sensor isn't electronic at all. The irony, Chen added, is that we've spent millions developing technologies that still can't match what evolution perfected centuries ago. Dogs can detect some sense at concentrations of parts per trillion. That's like finding a single drop in 20 Olympic swimming pools. The following day, after the storm had passed and normal operations resumed, Sarah and Maverick found themselves summoned to the chief's office. The story of the sabotage attempt and Maverick's critical role in preventing potential tragedy had spread throughout the department, with officers from other divisions stopping by to see the dog whose extraordinary senses had saved a helicopter crew. Chief Peterson, a 30-year veteran not known for emotional displays, actually knelt to greet Maverick before addressing Sarah. "I understand we have your partner to thank for preventing what could have been a terrible tragedy," he said, his usual gruff demeanor softened. "Yes, sir," Sarah replied. "Maverick alerted to the damaged component before anyone else detected an issue. Your actions yesterday exemplify the highest traditions of this department," the chief stated formally as departmental photographers documented the moment. Maverick sat perfectly at attention beside Sarah, seemingly aware of the ceremony's importance. Trusting your partner above pressure to conform likely saved multiple lives. The commendation was accompanied by department recognition, a story in the local paper, and, most meaningful to Sarah, a specialized challenge coin created specifically for Maverick, attached to his tactical vest alongside his service credentials. These coins, traditionally exchanged between human officers as tokens of respect and recognition, had never before been created for a K-9 officer. Later that afternoon, as they prepared for their regular patrol shift, Mercer approached them in the department parking lot. "We're conducting the flight test tomorrow after the replacement parts are installed," the pilot said. "I want Maverick to inspect the helicopter before we take it up." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "I thought the mechanics were doing a complete overhaul." "They are," Mercer confirmed with a rare smile. "But I'd sleep better with your partner's approval." He bent slightly, addressing Maverick directly. "What do you say, partner? Mind giving us the all-clear before we risk our necks up there?" The Malinois tilted his head slightly, examining the pilot with intelligent eyes that seemed to understand far more than any dog should. "I'll take that as a yes," Mercer laughed. "He's saying his inspection services don't come cheap," Sarah translated with a smile. "Usually costs at least one beef jerky treat." "Worth every penny," Mercer replied sincerely. "You know, in aviation we have a saying, 'Trust your instruments.' I think I need to amend that to include the four-legged variety." As Mercer walked away, Sarah looked down at her partner, feeling the familiar surge of pride and gratitude that came with their extraordinary partnership. Maverick looked back at her, alert and ready for whatever challenge came next, the perfect embodiment of capabilities that extended far beyond human limitations. The sabotage attempt had been thwarted not by sophisticated technology or elaborate security protocols, but by the ancient bond between human and canine, a partnership built on trust, respect, and the recognition that sometimes the most reliable warning system walks on four paws. Now we want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed an animal sense danger before humans could detect it? What would you have done if you were Officer Donovan? Would you trust your canine partner when everyone pressured you to ignore his warnings? How do you think animals detect things our most advanced technology sometimes misses? If this remarkable story of canine heroism impressed you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. You won't want to miss our next amazing tale. Drop a like. If you believe these incredible working dogs deserve more recognition, share with friends and family who appreciate the extraordinary bond between handlers and their canine partners. Watch more heroics. Check out our previous canine stories appearing on your screen now, including the amazing account of a police dog who detected a hidden tunnel during a routine patrol, saving dozens of lives. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time with a brand new video that will leave you in awe of these four-legged heroes. Until then, stay safe and never underestimate the power of a dog's nose and heart.